While getting my oil changed, the mechanic said, "Your wife called yesterday asking us to make sure your brakes fail." I stared at Luis from Valley Auto Service, holding my receipt with shaking hands. "What do you mean she asked you to make sure they fail?" He wiped his greasy palms on his coveralls and looked around the garage like someone might be listening. "Sir, I've been a mechanic for 18 years, and I've never had someone's spouse call asking us to sabotage their brakes. That's attempted murder." My mouth went dry as sandpaper. "You must have misunderstood her. Sarah would never." Luis pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket with handwriting on it. "She called at 2:15 p.m. yesterday and said she was Mrs. Walsh and needed us to make her husband's brakes fail gradually so it would look like an accident." The blood drained from my face as I read Luis's notes word for word. "Make it look mechanical. Insurance needs to pay. He has an $850,000 life insurance policy." My knees nearly buckled right there in the garage bay. "Did you record the call?" Luis shook his head, but pointed to the security camera above his workstation. "We record everything in the shop for liability. Your wife's voice is on the audio from yesterday's surveillance." He walked over to his computer and pulled up the timestamp. I listened to Sarah's voice, clear as day, explaining how she needed my brakes to fail during my commute to work next week when I'd be driving on Highway 101 through the mountain curves. I called Sarah immediately, putting the phone on speaker so Luis could hear. "Hey honey, how's the oil change going?" she asked, sounding perfectly normal. "Sarah, did you call Valley Auto Service yesterday about my car?" There was a long pause before she answered. "Why would I call about your car? I don't even know where you take it for service." Luis and I exchanged looks while I felt my world shifting beneath my feet. Someone had used Sarah's name and knew intimate details about our insurance policy, our daily routines, and which mechanic shop I used regularly. The woman on the phone yesterday had even known my full name and license plate number. Luis pulled me aside and lowered his voice to a whisper. "Mr. Walsh, I need to tell you something else. The woman who called yesterday knew things about your driving schedule that only someone close to you would know. She mentioned you leave for work at 7:30 a.m. and take the mountain route because it's faster." My blood turned to ice water. Only 3 people knew my exact morning routine: Sarah, my secretary at work, and my sister who lived across town. I'd been married to Sarah for 8 years and trusted her completely, but the evidence was sitting right there in Luis's handwritten notes with timestamps and specific details. I drove straight to the police station with Luis's recording and the written notes, my hands trembling on the steering wheel the entire time. Detective Blake listened to the audio twice, then asked for Sarah's work schedule and phone records. Within 2 hours, they'd traced the call to a burner phone purchased with cash at an electronics store 20 miles away. The store's security footage showed a woman in a baseball cap and sunglasses, but the height and build matched Sarah perfectly. When they searched our house that evening, they found the burner phone hidden inside an old shoebox in our bedroom closet, along with printed insurance policy documents and a handwritten timeline of my daily commute. Sarah broke down during the interrogation and confessed everything. She'd been having an affair with her personal trainer for 6 months and wanted me dead to collect the insurance money without going through a messy divorce. Plan was to have my brakes fail on the winding mountain road where accidents were common and rarely investigated thoroughly. She'd researched the route, timing, and even contacted 2 other mechanic shops before settling on Valley Auto Service because they seemed less professional. Her biggest mistake was underestimating Luis's integrity and assuming all mechanics would participate in murder for the right price. The prosecutor charged Sarah with conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and insurance fraud. Her defense attorney tried to claim she was just venting frustration and never intended to follow through, but the detailed planning and multiple phone calls proved premeditation. During the trial, Luis testified about the specific technical instructions she'd given for disabling my brakes in a way that would appear accidental. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours before finding her guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced Sarah to 23 years in prison without possibility of parole for 15 years. Luis became something of a local hero after the story hit the news, with other customers thanking him for his honesty and integrity. He said he'd sleep better knowing he'd saved a life rather than taken one, even though Sarah had offered him $5,000 to do the brake job. The insurance company investigated and confirmed they would have paid out the full $850,000 if the plan had succeeded, since brake failure accidents are nearly impossible to prove as sabotage after a fatal crash. I moved out of our house immediately and filed for divorce, unable to look at anything Sarah had touched without thinking about how close I'd come to dying on that mountain road next Monday morning at exactly 7:45 a.m.